And tonight we're talking about Rushmore from 1998, directed by Wes Anderson. You might have heard of him. A synopsis from Letterboxd. The tagline, Love, Expulsion, Revolution. When a beautiful first grade teacher arrives at a prep school, she soon attracts the attention of an ambitious teenager named Max, who quickly falls in love with her. Max turns to the father of two of his schoolmates for advice on how to woo the teacher. However, the situation soon gets complicated when Max's new friend becomes involved with her, setting the two pals against one another in a war for her attention.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's pretty garbage, right?
I guess. I mean, how else would you describe this movie?
It's like, I mean, it seems like it's from the perspective of the teacher.
Yeah,
of Miss
maybe,
Craw-
but
yeah, it's to me
Max
like,
is the main character.
yeah.
No?
I mean, yeah, they actually named Max, but it's like it sounds like it's about Miss Cross. Anywho, and the poster of this movie, the one that Buena Vista Disney whatever put out, it's got like his hand raised up in revolution. It's like it's a weird movie poster. I much prefer the Eric Anderson drawing of yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway,
I always hated that poster.
Yeah.
When I was a kid, I saw that in the movie store, and I was like, I don't want to watch whatever the fuck that is.
Yeah, it looks like really annoying. Like it's a bad. I had that tape for many years, and it's like I was like, that cover kind of sucks.
It sure fucking does.
Well, RJ,
Bro.
I don't know. When did you find out that Rushmore was in the Criterion Collection? Was that like, did you connect it at that time that hey, Wes Anderson, like, actually that's an interesting way. Yeah, let's just start there. Maybe, which is kind of weird. When did you first find out about Wes Anderson in your life?
Huh. When did I first learn about Wes Anderson? That's probably hard to pinpoint for me, to be honest. I don't really know. My first guess would be there's a guy, a friend of my brother's, who introduced me to many movies. One day maybe he'll even be on the show, because he was my Jarrett Duncan before there was a Jarrett Duncan. Bold claim. But now he introduced me to good movies where you give me shit like The Hidden Two. Anyways, he was my brother's friend, and he would always bring over movies to watch with my brother, and I would watch them too. And he introduced me to stuff like Clockwork Orange and Pulp Fiction and like Kubrick stuff and Quentin Tarantino and all sorts of the good stuff, you know? You know what I mean, bro? So I think it was around then. I think he probably brought over maybe Rushmore, or it could have been, what came after Rushmore?
Road Tenenbaums.
Yeah, probably Tenenbaums was the first one that I had seen.
Yeah.
Because I remember that too. The cover to that really really stuck out. But Rushmore took me a long time to watch it, actually, because as I was mentioning, I hated the cover, and I also thought it was that Warren Beatty movie Bulworth. I always really confused the titles and the posters, and I was just like, because I remember one time I think my parents were watching Bulworth, and I was just like, oh fuck, I was like, what a boring movie.
Yeah.
And then like at the movie store, I confused the covers. I was like, I don't want to rent that. I want to rent something fucking cool. Like
whenever you say movie store, it's like when I hear people say, "Hey, you got any soda pops?"
You got any soda pop?
At the movie store?
Movie store?
The video store?
Video store? Yeah, the movie store, bro.
Yeah.
Yeah, the video. How is video store better than movie store?
It just is.
Shut up, nerd. But so yeah, it was actually Rushmore was one that I hadn't seen, and I think until I was almost done, like I knew who Wes Anderson was, and I was almost done his whole filmography.
Yeah.
And then I was like, oh shit, I never watched Rushmore. I almost said Bulworth. I get those two fucking movies confused all the time.
Mm-hmm.
All the time, Jer. But and then I did find out who old Wes was, and I was like, yeah, that guy is pretty cool.
Yeah.
Pretty cool. What about you, man? I know you are
a pretty
self-acclaimed big fan.
Yeah, so I think back in the late 90s when indie comedies were all the rage, or it seemed like it more was like something I was like on the look for. Like nowadays I don't watch many comedies because they're bad. But like in the late '90s, it was really cool, and there was like it was like the heyday of the indie '90s comedy because you had like the Kevin Smith movies, and like it was always like who's going to be the next Kevin Smith, and like so everyone watched like a lot of bad, crappy movies trying to find it. Then there's like some cult classics that came out of it that people would gravitate toward to various degrees. And then Rushmore was just one of those movies that like came along in that window. But like now when you look back at it, you're like, oh, Wes Anderson's like he was on a different level as a director at that point. I mean, he didn't quite become like the formalist that he is now, but like it's all there in this movie. So Rushmore was the first of his movies that I watched, and then. I think I probably, because my friend Dan and I in particular, he loved like indie '90s comedy stuff. So we went out of our ways to like buying random stuff at stores, and then Rushmore came along. You're like, oh, I'll watch that, and it was like, whoa, this movie's like really good. It's got that sort of like J.D. Salinger kind of vibe to it, of this like sort of like weird kid, and it's like he's kind of like a misfit, putting on airs of who he is. He doesn't quite belong. As in our introduction to this episode, his ambition is much greater than his actual skill or abilities. But he's really good. He's very charismatic, I guess, in this context. So yeah, Rushmore like kind of tapped into like being like a high school kid, being like, yeah, I don't quite fit in, but it's because the world's out of order, man. So Rushmore was like kind of like that, but it wasn't like I felt Max Fisher is a bit more relatable. It's kind of being like like a poor kid trying to make his way in the world of like the gifted, and Bill Murray, because it's like, I don't know, there was a long period of time where like everybody wanted Bill Murray to actually be as cool as people thought Bill Murray was, and all he really had to go on for that was Ghostbusters. And I don't know, I don't buy Caddyshack as being a really great performance of his being like a retarded groundskeeper. No, I agree. I don't know. It's not as not like great comedy in my mind, but I don't know. And Groundhog Day, obviously, but and Scrooge, I don't really like that movie too much. But hey, anyway.
But you're a bad person.
Bill Murray is just like one of those guys. Like you wanted to like him more than I think his movies would have let you to. But Rushmore comes along, and he's in this movie. He wanted to be in this movie real bad because he went, I want a piece of this, and he got into it. And now he's become a Wes Anderson guy, where it's a like cliche, where it's like, oh, Bill Murray's in a Wes Anderson movie every single time. But anyway, this movie, I think, so yeah, I watched this way back yonder, and I've watched every Wes Anderson movie ever since. And Criterion Collection clearly loves him, as they've put every single thing he's made into it. We're just waiting for that Grand Budapest Hotel announcement to come along.
It'll probably be within the year. That's usually all it takes. Like for any new Wes Anderson, it's about a year, and then it's in the collection.
Sometimes a little longer.
The last two, I feel like
Darjeeling took a little bit longer for whatever reason, but generally speaking,
because you hate it.
I came around on Darjeeling. I like that movie more now than I did the first time. No, his worst movie is Moonrise Kingdom, like by a country mile.
Isn't it that because that one nerd wrote that movie with him, or
Roman Coppola? Yeah, maybe.
Yeah,
maybe.
Yep. Well, whatever. But Wes Anderson's cool, and Bill Murray is cool too.
Oh, hey, they announced you know what the 900th Criterion was? It wasn't like announced. It's also coming out, I guess, in December or something like that, but it's going to be Spine 900, 100 years of Olympic films. It's like a massive $400 box set of fucking movies on the Olympics. So
is Munich be in that list?
No, but there's so RJ, when we get to episode when we cover Spine number 900, that consists of 53 films.
Fuck you. Hey, if we're still alive at that point, then we'll deal with it when it comes to it. If we haven't been
consumed in fire and fury.
Yeah, I feel like that's going to be a thing. Like we'll either be dead, or at that point, it won't be a podcast anymore. It'll be you and me both in a room talking to each other, and someone will walk by and be like, "Who are they talking to?" And like they think they have a podcast. That sad thing.
Yeah, it will be sad.
Yep. So do you want to talk about Rushmore?
Oh,
Or
maybe.
do you have some more stuff off
Maybe. Hey,
us
so okay,
about
okay.
Wes?
So more ramblings. So I last year
Sure.
I kind of went through a phase where I was watching like Quentin Tarantino movies all in chronological order,
Yep.
P.T. Anderson movies all in chronological order. Wes
Yep.
Anderson's one of those dudes, and I watched all his stuff again because it had been a while. And at the time, I was like, yeah, Rushmore's still pretty good. I mean, it's definitely lower grade Wes Anderson, blah, blah, blah. And
Mm-hmm.
like for me, because like it's kind of a coin toss between. Like I think Royal Tenenbaums is still like my absolute favorite of his movies. Like I just find it
Sure.
like the humanity of it, the feeling of it I get when I
Mm-hmm.
watch that movie, everything about it is like so great. And it's like also in the probably in the ballpark is like Fantastic Mr. Fox and Grand Budapest Hotel. I think are like kind of like top
Yep.
three movies. And
Yeah, I was
then
gonna ask.
but then I think below that, then I'd have like probably Life Aquatic, and then Rushmore.
Mm-hmm.
Moonrise Kingdom is the bottom of the pile, and then
Sure.
Darjeeling is there, and then God, is that it? Is that 10? I can't.
Yeah, his new one comes out next year.
Yeah, his next like animated kind of
The
movie. Oh,
dog one.
Bottle Rocket is very much a first director. Like it's a movie but made by a
Yeah.
first time director, and it's like pretty cool for that. But it's like it is kind of not great. It's fine.
Yeah.
It's okay. It's got some charms. Because like
Mm-hmm.
one of the things that's really great about this movie is this movie was co-written with Owen Wilson, his
Mm-hmm.
collaborator for his first three films. And there's this
Yep.
stuff in this movie that's like that is such an Owen Wilson line. In particular, when Max is trying to like save Latin, there's just
Oh
the
yeah.
line where he goes, "In summation, I only have one question: is Latin dead?" And all I'm like, that is like totally that is Owen Wilson to me.
Yeah.
That is like exactly how he would say it.
Who do you think wrote the line when what's his face? Jason Schwartzman goes up to Bill Murray and he's like, "Were you in the shit?" And Bill Murray's like, "Yeah, I was in the shit."
That's Owen Wilson.
Okay,
Because
that's what I thought
because
too.
there's
Yeah.
all the like really great like dialogue in this movie, like the good like funny
Yep.
lines. That's Owen Wilson because
Okay.
Wes Anderson doesn't write that way. Like he's
Mm-hmm.
very deadpan, and like that changes. Like once you get away, because Life Aquatic, he's still in it, but it's not written
Mm-hmm.
by him. But that movie like nails like that's like the formula of Anderson completely figured out with
Yeah.
Life Aquatic, and after that point, it's just become more and more like polished, in a
Yeah.
way that like I really like. Yeah, we'll talk about that later. But people really hate Wes Anderson, which like is
Why?
I don't know.
Well, I guess
I
I
kind
mean,
of like I kind
people
of
hate.
they hate tweeness.
I was gonna say people hate him because they anus.
Well,
No, wait, that's not how that goes. It's like Chris Nolan. Chris Nolan gets
yeah,
lots of shit
exactly.
too, but it's because he's good at what he
Exactly.
does.
Yeah, well, I think there's people who hate Christopher Nolan way more than Wes Anderson even.
Oh yeah.
But like, cause like whenever time Criterion Collection's Facebook page posts like something about like Christopher Nolan, it just brings out
Yeah.
people complaining about Christopher Nolan and people complaining, I'm sure,
Yeah.
about Antifa and Black Lives Matter or something like that.
Uh,
Because
fuck those people.
they're all unique and they're having original thoughts that aren't the same one echoed over and over again. Anyway, Wes Anderson, Rushmore. This is a very cool movie. I liked it even more this time. When I was like kind of looking over like all the Criterion films, it's definitely in the top portion of the movies, especially for a comedy. And like we talked about this. I mean, I haven't even let you talk about Rushmore yet, but like
keep
I'd
going.
say in terms of like comedies, I think this movie like it's more 90s. It's not old. I don't think it's really old people humor like some of the films like This Is Spinal Tap or Life of
Yes.
Brian. I think this movie is like
Yes.
very contemporary. But who knows, 20 years from now people will be like Rushmore, more like snooze bore.
Oh, you're better than that.
Okay, so a few things I dig, I love immediately that says, yep, this is Wes Anderson. Mark Mothersbaugh of Devo, he does the music for this.
Cool.
He's the guy that Wes Anderson's been using since Rushmore, mixed in with his like 60s awesome soundtracks, which is like a highlight always of Wes Anderson movies for me. In fact, I'm basically just going to be lifting some of my favorite songs from the Rushmore soundtrack for the intro and outro for the actual review here, because
Sure.
this song, I've listened to those songs so many times. I've had my mixtapes with those songs. Why the fuck not? So there's like the stuff that I love about Wes Anderson. Things like Letterheads. like on like notes that we get that are shot overhead in this kind of like the fancy word is typological sort of way, where it's like a system of things, and he presents it always in this overhead shot. Man, it's like when we talked about this a lot, like that's a Wes Anderson shot. Like when we were talking about M, like there's like all these things. There's like those are Wes Anderson shots, and obviously I don't think Fritz Lang was influenced by Rushmore or anything like that. But it's like fascinating that Wes Anderson's like absorbed all this movie making and he's presented it in this way. He's like the flip side of a Quentin Tarantino, where like they're both like actually kind of doing the same type of thing. They're both in love with movies. They both love the French New Wave in particular, and they've like the way they've approached genre and storytelling are just so completely different. Because I think like Quentin Tarantino has a certain Tarantino-ness to all his movies, and Wes Anderson definitely unavoidably does. That's like you can't copy Wes Anderson movies very easily, whereas Tarantino, it's like people copy like all the obvious things, like, oh, it's a crime story, it's all you have to do is crime. And then with like Wes Anderson though, it's like, well, here's like a quirky story about like, I don't know, a half dog Muppet and whatever, like and a librarian on a bicycle, and they're gonna go camping, and I don't know, Ed Norton and Bruce Willis show up. Fuck, I don't know. Anyway, and then
I agree.
Yeah, and then just like things like text, like his choice of fonts and like just handwritten signs that exist in this. There's like there's just amazing details, like when Herman Bloom he goes up he goes up to the, oh god, what's it called, on the swimming pool, the diving board. He like like just off the back in the corner there's like the happy birthday sign for his two twin sons, and it's just this like hilarious like hand painted sign for like happy birthday Ronnie and Johnny, and just like whatever the kids names are. But it's like, oh god, I fucking love his movies, because there's just like, and it's just shot like, oh, there it is, there's no attention to it. But then
just to interrupt you for a second while you're on fonts, one thing I really love with his stuff is he always has like hand drawn like crayon-y type things. Like we're at the end, or there's a scene where Jason Schwartzman and that the girl at the public school is flying a plane, and he's like, what do you got there?
Margaret
and she
Yang?
shows Margaret Yang, and it's like a flight plan. He's like, pretty good. Yeah. And it's like drawn in like crayons or something like that. Like I feel like he has that stuff in his movies a lot too, and I dig it.
Yeah, that's his.
I think it's super cool.
That's all his brother Eric Anderson. That's all his doodlings, which are fantastic looking. They're very reminiscent of there's the one Canadian artist Marcel Zama. It's very much in the school. Like you've seen, like all the Criterion covers usually use the his brother's drawings of the stuff, and it just sets this feel to the movie that you're about to watch. Anyway, so I've got lots to say about Rushmore, but RJ, what did you think about Rushmore? I know you already gave it 4.5 stars, but
well, that's because it's a super cool movie, and who wouldn't give it 4.5 stars unless you were a jerk? I'm sure there's people who hate him, but we've talked about that.
Oh, we'll get into that too.
We'll get there. So yeah, you kind of know my history, but it's been a couple of years actually since I watched this, and I liked it more this time than I remembered when I had first watched it.
Yeah,
I think when I had watched it, it's like I said, I had burned through all of his stuff already, so I was really familiar with his kind of filmmaking and his techniques and like the way he likes to present stuff. So I think when I came to Rushmore, I was like, okay, yeah, I liked it, but the story itself I didn't identify with as much as his other movies, because I wasn't a nerd like this kid. I was like Bill Murray. I was smoking 2 cigarettes at once. Yeah, I love that scene, by the way, where he's in the elevator and he has 2 cigarettes. Fuck, that's funny. I love stuff like that. But yeah, this movie is so like smooth and cool. Yeah. And it has like, it's like you were saying, like Bottle Rocket, you can tell he's getting there with his own identity, like with how he makes films. And then Rushmore came, and it's like, okay, yeah, this is a Wes Anderson one. Like all of them are. Like Bottle Rocket is too, but it's like you said, it's very much a first film. It's got all the great stuff that I think he does the best, like his editing cuts, like the location changes. I feel like he really spiced up the walk and talk. Like like for like when Jason Schwartzman's like pitching the aquarium to Bill Murray and they're in his factory and it's like instead of walking talking he's like in different locations and it kind of jumps to the next one very fast and then they're doing other things and keeps it fucking moving, man. You dig it, you love it.
Yeah,
bro.
Yeah, that the scene in the plant when they're figuring out the plans and for the aquarium. How much do you need? And they cut to for the initial plans, $35,000. Fucking Bill Murray's like acting is so good. Like he's like I it's one of those things I say this often I guess about things I really like a lot in movies where it's like I think about that scene all the time of him like kind of like reacting and kind of like his hands kind of pop up on the desk and he like takes out the checkbook and he kind of flips it open in these small little ways and then he kind of does like a little like up head turn to like look at him like I'll give you $2,500. Like he plays it out, he plays it out so well and it's like so funny and like nuanced. I just fucking love it.
Oh yeah, he's really good and there's a few things I really like with him, but I was gonna say the other like really good Wes Anderson things. Like I think the obvious one is with the plays that they put on. It's very much like it was like a way for him to kind of showcase like his love of sets and stuff like that, which would become such a staple in all of his movies where it's like the big elaborate sets and things like that. I think the plays were a way for him to work that out at first. Yeah. And then I think this movie as a whole does a really good job. Like this movie is an hour and a half. It's perfect running time.
Perfect.
You don't feel like perfect comedy length, and it goes through all the arcs, man. You have the rise, you have the fall, and then you have the redemption. You got it all in there, man.
Well, the movie's got like kind of like it kind of goes out avoids that kind of 5 arc story or the 3 act story. It's like it's got some weird like it's got sections. Like it's got this, and it's got like I don't know, probably about I didn't break it down, but like 8 sections, and it all works very well. Like it's actually it's very Godardian, I guess, because like those movies usually work in chapters as well, and like they just don't bring obvious attention to. Actually, no, that's not true because they use the months, because they use like for each section of the what month it is, like September, November.
Because this is a Halloween movie
and a Christmas movie
so you could watch this at any season.
That's right.
But I thought that was really good. And the only thing, like, there's a lot of stuff I really like that I'm going to get to. The only thing I don't like is I don't like him. What's his name? Max? Like Jason Schwartzman's character. Yeah. I think he's a real piece of shit. Not totally. Like, he kind of saves himself at the end. But I feel like he's shitty to his dad because he's, like, embarrassed where he came from. And it's like, I get it. There's a lot of people who are like that come out of, like, the shit as it was, but his dad is so fucking nice.
Seymour Cassell.
But by the way, I love Seymour Cassell. He is the coolest fucking dude, and he's so sweet and he's so kind. And then like, he's not even being mean, but like when he tells people, he's like, "Yeah, my dad's a neurosurgeon." I felt bad for his dad, and it made me dislike him. And then I don't know, he gets kind of rapey at a few points, but he's in love. And is that justification? He doesn't actually like rape anyone, but he really tries to steal a smooch.
Yeah, but you see your opening, you got to make the shot, bro.
You got to make the shot, yeah.
And it doesn't go much further than that. He took a shot, it didn't work out.
This is one I actually like a lot, but you could see it as a bad thing where the escalation in pranks when he's like got it out for Bill Murray. Yeah. He does the bees and then he goes straight to cutting his brakes like he's trying to kill him. Yeah. So my only point is I feel like he's like kind of a bad dude.
Kind of a sociopath.
Yeah, he's like kind of a bad dude, but then at the same time at the end it's like I said, he kind of makes up for it and you're like, all right, man. All right.
I kind of wonder if like Wes Anderson's last movie will be like bringing together these characters into one film, like where we see like where
Marvel's Cinematic Universe.
Yeah, it's like the big crossover when they go fight Galactus. But I guess it'll be played by Bill Murray. But anywho, but no, I'm kind of curious because where Max Fisher is now, like what kind of where is he in? Like what does he do? Because it's like he seems to be like a political animal. He's one of those guys that would want to be like, because like he gets other people to do things for him. He just like gets people to do stuff like that's not in their own best interest, but he just gets them to do it because he needs to accomplish his own goal. But when he actually has to do his own stuff, like his like science diorama about tidal waves, it's like it's really it's like shitty and like very childlike, and it's like that's intentional, but at the same time like it's really bad. and like for like someone that age and like making things that look like that crappy, it's like he's incapable of doing it, which is like really cool for like a character to be like that way, because usually those characters are like too cool for school. They're the Ferris Bueller types.
You're absolutely right. Yeah. Like I think that's why that opening, the intro to him is so well, because it's like a bait and switch. You're like, oh yeah, okay, I get it. He's the boy genius who's good at everything. But then it's like, oh no, wait, he's like involved in everything, but he kind of sucks. Yeah. Like at a lot of the stuff he does, like he's bad at school and he's bad at dioramas. So it's nice. It's a good flip.
Yeah, but he's a great leader of men.
Yeah, exactly.
No.
Exactly.
So yeah, the movie's got those sweet wide-angle lenses employed that look great. You got that central figure thing that I think once you watch that one internet video laying out like the formal aspects of Wes Anderson and about central figures, you can't not see it anymore. So maybe don't watch it. I'm sure you already have, because if you're Wes
haven't.
Okay, well, it'll drive you. It'll just drive you nuts when you watch it. His movies.
Oh, what are you drinking beers over there? You got the burps?
Soda pop, and at least I acknowledge my belches, RJ.
I don't, because I don't know how often they actually come through. So if it didn't come through, I know you say that it does, but I listen to these episodes, dude, and it doesn't always come through.
Anyway, Max Fisher's shitty plays. So like, there's this whole thing. Like, I'm not sure if people are supposed to acknowledge this, but like the whole thing about like emulating movies. Like he's making plays about movies, and it's like, in this world, do people realize he's stealing these ideas? Because they never actually point that out. Like, because he's just doing, I'm going to do Serpico. And then he's going to do Heaven and Earth, and it's literally called Heaven and Earth, and it's just like his pastiches of these things. But it's like, are people just kind of like, oh, that's cute, he makes his plays, but they're just like rip-offs of other things. And it's like, cause I mean, that's a thing that 15-year-olds do, is like all the stuff they think that they're doing are like original, they're actually just rip-offs of the things that they really like at the time.
It's like Shia LaBeouf when he ripped off Dan Klaus, and he was like, well, he's just so influential to me that I didn't even realize I was ripping him off.
Even though it's like he opened up the graphic novel and went to the page and went, yep, there's the line, I'm going to write that into the screenplay. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Dan Klaus. You don't watch movies, you'll never find out.
No. One of the all-time great moments of this movie and in cinema is Bill Murray taking his boys home as they load into the car, and they're just carrying on, and you get the wonderful line, "Pull your head out of your ass," and then Bill Murray's lunge backward, like as he just like, goes to, like,
stiff arming.
I'm not sure if he's like what he's doing, if he's just like throttling or like trying to punch his like wrestling troglodyte son. But I'm like, that is some classic parenting. I think
that's such dad shit. Yeah, that's so like, funny.
That's the stuff that no one wants to talk about that their dad did, because now it's like, oh, that's child abuse.
Yeah, but it raises good kids.
Yeah.
And as long as you don't take it too far. But
that's when
I love that too.
Yeah, when you push dad too far.
Yeah, when dad reaches back, he's like, hey, you little shit. He's shaking him. Fuck, that's so funny. Bill Murray, like we were saying, he's so fucking good in this movie. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't know if he improvs some things, but there are two things that, like, I mean, there's lots of stuff that he does. Like I was saying, the 2 cigarette thing, the strong arm. Mm-hmm. But the 2 things I really love too is when he delivers the secret, or like the message to the teacher from Max. Yeah, he's like, he wanted to apologize, and then she's like reading it, and he's like walking away, and then all of a sudden he just fucking runs through the field. Yeah. I was watching that, I was like, why does he run away? Like, I don't know, like, is that something he just decided to do? Because I think it's fucking hilarious. Mm-hmm. And then the other time when he's on the phone, he's like, oh yeah, I don't think your girlfriend's that great. Yeah, she's not that cool.
As he's following around and peeking through windows at a grade 1 class.
He's following her around, but then he walks through the basketball court and the kid goes to shoot it, and he's just like, ugh, just stuffs that little kid.
Yeah.
Fuck, it's funny.
Oh, fuck. Because and that's improvised, like 100%. Yeah. Like, that's just because, I mean, fuck, you have Bill Murray, like, doing whatever he wants, and, like, you have, like, this great character. He's just gonna, you let him figure things out, and it'll be memorable.
So those 2 things are everything he does. He's so good in this. Jason Schwartzman's fucking wicked in this too. You know he's only 18 in this movie?
Wow, I didn't even think about that. Yeah,
I looked it up because I was like, I wonder how old he was, because this movie next year will be 20 years old.
Yeah.
And I was just like, holy shit, that's a long time.
Yeah, that is pretty incredible actually. That's like got
Yeah.
to be one of the old like yeah, that's up there with like one of those like alt like I mean that really does tie in movies like there's movies like Ghost World where you have like Thora Birch and
Yeah.
Scarlett Johansson that's like they really ground this like these movies and sometimes
Yep.
these like indie teen comedies or whatever it's like if you don't have like the right actors to like make it work it falls really
Yeah.
apart. So yeah, kudos for
I just looked it up too, and this was actually his first movie also.
Yeah.
So like he was probably acting in other things, but first movie and he was 18, man. That's quite the accomplishment.
Well, I guess it's not like he comes from, he has the acting history, though. Like he's got the family connections. He's got that.
I don't know about that.
Oh, he's got that Francis Ford Coppola. He's got that going on. I mean, James Caan was in. James Caan was the guy who became a big fan of Bottle Rocket, and then he was in the real movie version of it. And then, James Caan, that goes to Godfather, and that goes to Francis Ford Coppola, and it all falls together.
Sure.
And so, yeah, Jason Schwartzman shows up in your movie, and he actually can act. He's not just garbage, because that doesn't always work out. Anyway,
no, it doesn't always, but.
What the hell's the line? Moving on from. God damn, I wrote it down and I'm like blanking. Moving on. I don't know. Maybe it wasn't as funny as I thought it was because I'm like, what does that mean?
I have one too where I just wrote down, is that Latin? And I was like, I can't remember when. I think it was when the bully. Oh,
that is the same. That's the same scene.
That's the same scene.
Because that's when it all connects. Yes, it's when Max Fisher goes over to Miss Cross on the benches, and he's like pretending to be this like above hat with his little hat, and she's like, "That's a nice little hat, thanks." And he's like, "What are you reading?" And blah blah blah. And she's like, "I settle like Central Latin politics." Oh. Latin, yeah. And then he starts talking about, they're canceling Latin. Oh, it's a different type of Latin than that. And then she says, and then Max is like, he's like, that's interesting. Moving on. And he just cuts off that line of questioning because it doesn't have him like being able to say, I'm going to save Latin essentially. And then she throws some Latin out to him. He's like, what's that? Oh, it's Latin. And,
it's Latin.
Yeah, because he's like, he's a kid. He's trying to play bigger ball, and it's like Miss Cross is just kind of like, I don't know. I think that she's such a good character.
Yeah,
I think she's like amazing. Like she's so like perfectly cast. Like she's like totally like I can see totally people like being in love with her. Like she seems like this really sweet kind of like I don't know, great person that is damaged but also very warm and like most people would probably be totally into that. And then of course we get the marvelous exchange of, were you in the shit? Yeah, I was in the shit.
Yeah, I was in the shit.
Yeah, this is like amazing.
I was in the shit. That's my favorite. I think that's my favorite line in this whole movie.
Yeah.
I was in the shit.
Yeah, there's some good ones. There's also like, I don't know what, like Herman's declaration of "come work for me." It's like to do what? Just to like make him not feel old and miserable and sad with his painting of him smoking at the family portrait painting.
Oh, I love that. That reminds me of an old guy that I know.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I love that. That's so fucking wicked.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, we haven't mentioned, but how cool is Brian Cox?
Oh,
I wish he was in more things.
I believe the response is, what's that supposed to mean?
What's that supposed to mean? What's that supposed to mean? Yeah, Brian Cox is so good. I love that fucking guy.
Yeah, he's great. What else? Oh yeah, there's like the other thing I love in these Wes Anderson flicks is like, because usually the movies are very like standard, like cut tripod shots, but then he drops in those the handheld shots, the tracking shots for the sense of vermicitude, the verite feel, and it works so well. Like he pulls it off better than a lot of people do. Yeah.
Hey, I have one question about this movie. One thing that I don't really understand, and I'm not sure if I missed it or, when Max, wait, that's his name, right?
Yeah.
When he like goes and tells Bill Murray's wife that Bill Murray is having an affair, and then he's like telling her, but then there's like loud sirens and the audio drowns out like what he's saying. Why does he do that? Is it like? I never really understood that. I was like, what?
Maybe he was like, just like they shot it and it was like boring, and he's like, we'll just do this. It's stylish, and it's like it's something that Godard would do, and it's like, because you don't need to know, you don't need to actually hear what they say, because he's going to get, because the next cut is he's going to say this, which we already know that he's going to tell him he's having an affair, and then they cut to him in the hotel room. or checking into the lobby.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, I'm checking in, just like Royal Tenenbaum checking into a hotel. Being a
that seems
sad
really
bastard.
good too.
Yeah, it works. It sets up that.
How
gag.
long will you be staying with us? He's like, indefinitely. I'm being sued for a divorce. And the guy's like, very good,
Yeah.
very good.
Oh, and then what else we got here? Don't fuck with my play. That's like one of my favorite things of this, like, of an artistic genius who's just like, don't fuck with my play, and there's like, it's so heated, you get punched in the face, and it's handheld, everything wonderful. And then we got I think the first example of slow motion in this movie, because it's like when everyone's coming out to applause from the crowd, and then Max comes out walking, and then there's the slow motion turn with his bleeding nose, basking in his glory. Very, very Wes.
Very good.
And Luke Wilson, remember him?
I do. Yeah, it was nice to see him.
Yeah. And then of course we got, like, I fucking love Max. Who's this guy? I just love how much he hates Luke Wilson, because it's like, I think it's because, like, you're supposed to read it as like Luke Wilson's the handsome doctor, and he just, like, has no time for this guy, and he's just like, he's like, these are our scrubs. To which we get, oh, are they?
Oh, are they?
Yeah. That's some Owen Wilson right there.
Yeah, that's real fun. Yeah. Everyone thinks so.
Yeah. Then at one point I realized, oh yeah, Dirk is Dennis the Menace.
Yeah, what happened to that guy? Did he ever do anything else?
No. He just looks like he's kind of phased out of acting. You know, he was in Bad Moon as well, which I didn't remember.
Oh,
yeah, he's the kid.
I didn't even realize.
Mm-hmm. Huh. Yeah, and so Max gets kicked out of school because he's going to destroy the baseball diamond. He stepped too far. He goes to the local public school, but he manages to, like, take over the school fairly quickly as a good sociopath. Another great moment in the movie is do you want a carrot? Yeah, I'll have one of those.
Yeah, I'll have one of those. Yeah, that one was pretty good too.
Just chomps on that carrot a little bit. And then we get the escalation as Max, everything's revealed, hand jobs, and things are revealed. More talk of hand jobs and jacuzzis, the bees, the wrecking of a bike, cutting brakes, and then, like, this is all being watched by Pagoda from Royal Tenenbaums.
Whoa,
that's his name in Royal Tenenbaums.
Pagoda?
Indian guy, I guess. Like, he just shows up in these Wes Anderson movies, and he's just there. Yep. He can't act. He stabs people when need be. It's all good.
Like all good American filmmakers or film peoples.
Yeah. And then we get the moving November montage of sadness to the Rolling Stones' "I Am Waiting," which is amazing. And then the downward, just the downward spiral of Herman Bloom, the emotional wreck of Miss Cross, Max's depressive funk. It's just like great filmmaking. It feels earned too, because you want to see things work out for these guys.
Yeah, you do.
As previously mentioned, I love Margaret Yang. She's a chick I would have loved in school. She's great.
Gross. I don't have anything else to say, but that is pretty gross.
You don't want to talk about high school girls?
No thanks.
Oh, what's up with you, bro?
I prefer not to go to jail, but whatever.
They're fictional, RJ. They're fictional. Just like those drawings we exchange.
Gotcha.
Anyway, other great moment of great Bill Murray acting is with Max's dad when he finds out, like, oh, he's a barber, and like it's so good because it's not like this, like, it's like this reveal that just plays out well and sweetly. Very good. And then you get the Wes Anderson big come together scene, because that's what always happens. I think that's a thing that he likes to go for in, like, all of his movies, where everything kind of comes together into one big celebration of humanity. I love the Latin being thrown out at the end of Heaven and Earth. It pays off that Latin subplot of, like, all these kids taking Latin because they're forced to now, and why not? And then Bill's tears, and then the movie goes out on some faces. Ooh la la.
I was in the shit was my favorite, but my other favorite line in this movie is when Luke Wilson goes to Seymour Cassell, and he's like, "I understand you're a neurosurgeon," and he's like, "No, I'm a barber, but a lot of people make that mistake." I think that is really funny, and I wish when I was doing neuroscience, I had that line in the back pocket. But you know, one day
you can go back.
One day I'll go back.
Take back the night.
Ooh, gross.
So RJ, there are people. There's certain people who hate this movie. And they've actually one of the nice things that Letterboxd has done is they've made it way easier to like look up the lowest ratings, because initially what they would do is when you pull that up, it would have all the 0 stars, like non-ratings, as the lowest rated movies. But now they've eliminated all that, so it starts right with like the first half star that was last logged.
Gotcha.
And this was posted by GN back in February. I have a half star. I have a migraine because of this movie. I think I'm going to drink a bottle of wine and have an afternoon nap. On a totally separate note, so when is Jason Schwartzman going to die? Wow.
What?
So wait, all you Wes Anderson coprophiliac winkers know for a fact that Anderson is a racist, pretentious bottle of diarrhea. They literally say the N-word in this accident of a movie. And you will still try to argue and tell everyone he is not racist, that people are reading too much into his white upper-class, male-centric movies with lower-class, non-white extras that are replaceable and have insignificant roles. Boy, oh boy.
Sounds like a social justice warrior.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I don't agree with any of those things. I don't think that's actually accurate.
Yeah, so there's those people. I've seen people try to start that up with David Lynch in Twin Peaks lately, saying that there's only been like one black person and she was a prostitute. And I was like, what about Ernie Hudson? He was a man in military uniform.
Yeah.
Or the announcer of the Roadhouse. I mean, okay, fair enough. There's not a lot of color in the Twin Peaks verse, in the David Lynch universe for the most part. One of the ones that jumps out to me is the voodoo guy in Wild at Heart. Yeah. But I don't know what that tells you, other than I don't know. Whatever. I don't know.
Tell me more, Jarrett Duncan.
Zhao Wei Lin gave this movie 1 star. Overrated. Worst movie I'd seen in a while. Everything builds up and goes up in smoke. Not sure why the title is even Rushmore. It should have been Fisher if Wes Anderson wanted a 1-word title. After it ended, I was surprised it was only 1.5 hours long because the plot seemed to drag on forever.
That's not clever.
No.
Don't do that.
Thomas Roche, 1 star. Yes, I know you love this film. Yes, I really do hate it. Yes, I know you can't comprehend that. Yes, I understand you think I'm a shithead. Yes, I understand that everyone loves this film except for me. For 1, me, and 2, a small number of people who find it too inoffensive to have a strong opinion on. No, when I say hate, I don't mean I'm out one of the latter. I mean I hate it with every fiber of my being. Yes, now that we've got that unpleasant piece of business finished, I'd like to never talk about this film again.
I'd like to never talk about this person again.
Oh.
If that... Oh, see, I'm clever too. I got snappy-ass comments. Buddy.
Mm-hmm. You showed all of them.
I showed you, jerks.
So, this movie has 851 fans on Letterboxd, and it's been viewed like 47,000 times by people, apparently. That's quite a bit, actually. That's a lot.
Yep.
That
is a lot.
I think it's like one of those movies where being a Criterion title has not stopped people from watching it. Because sometimes it seems like people don't do it.
I think Old Wes is above that.
Yes, I think he's in the mainstream. His movies do better and better every time out.
Yes, they do.
Oh, yeah, here's some other good ones. Peter Burgess, 1 star. Am I the only one who finds Wes Anderson's quirkiness horribly nauseating?
Yes.
And then
yes, you are.
Here's a 1.5 star review from Robot Pie. I enjoyed this film by Wes Anderson.
That's actually a pretty good review. I like that.
Yeah. Yeah. See, this is the thing, though. The people who hate Wes Anderson. 1.5 star by Eddie. A film for sad, quirky Tumblr kids, in brackets, hipsters, not a fan, can't relate. And so that becomes the label of quirky and like it being inherently bad. It's kind of like the thing about David Lynch being weird. Wes Anderson's quirky.
Yeah, I don't like when people like. I mean, if you don't like it, that's fine. But I don't know. Sometimes I don't like things, and I can look at them objectively. But I'm also a big hypocrite, so whatever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, here you go. Tom Prankard, 2 stars. Wes Anderson's debut isn't as twee and cloying as his later work would get, and almost feels like a normal film in places. Some laughs, but everyone is far too unlikable for it to be much fun.
This isn't even his debut, so what is this guy talking about? This guy didn't even do his research.
Yeah.
It's not his debut, fucker.
Yeah, garbage pile. Anyway, I don't know. If you don't like Wes Anderson, that sucks. Because Wes Anderson's got a lot to say, and his movies are pretty great. Yep.
I agree with all those sentiments.
Sweet. Well, after the break, I'm going to go cut RJ's brakes.
You try, you fucker. I'll hit you with the bees.
Not the bees.
People can see what I'm doing, right?
You're doing the General Ikari hand thing.
Yeah, this is a visual medium.